tech is not a race to zero. So there's this conversation that I've been having or seeing online a lot lately, and it centers around the cost of internet circuits specifically, and some other things as well, talking about how there's a general race to zero in markets. And so internet circuits, network circuits, if you're on the one side of the fence, you believe that it's a race to zero and all these suppliers are just doing crazy stuff and just eventually going to give the stuff, the stuff away for free. It's not a race to zero because that would connotate that it's a margin compression or race to zero margin as well. In fact, like margins are actually improving for a lot of these businesses, not decreasing. What's actually going on here is that tech is doing two things. When we talk about tech, right? So tech is always improving and innovating, and it's always becoming more efficient. And I'm going to give you two examples for this that you can think about. But the first example, worldwide PC costs. Worldwide PC shipments over a span of, the last 15 years, average cost per PC is $733 every month. Every year, every unit, worldwide, $733 year over year. Maybe you equate to this in Apple, right? When a new iPhone comes out, now of course there's tiers between like the standard iPhone and the Pro iPhone and the Pro Max iPhone, or let's just use a simple one, a MacBook Air. A MacBook Air costs $999. That's what it costs. Cost that last year, cost that the year before, cost the year before that. Each year, that MacBook has gotten faster. It's had more RAM. It's had a faster hard drive. It's got a better screen. It's got faster graphics chips. That laptop has improved every year, but that selling price has stayed the same at $1,000. Why? Well, because the tech has improved. As tech improves and units shipped and quantity of units shipped increase, costs for those components decrease. Not a hard thing to figure out, right? So let's talk about network. And this is what really stemmed this recording for me here. The average, my house, I've got a 1,000 meg GPON service in my house. I have 1,000 meg symmetric fiber optic service in my house. Like it's nuts. I mean, my first internet connection was a 1200 baud modem. So span of my lifetime, I've gone from a 1200 baud modem to a 1000 megabit internet circuit, right? Like it's astronomically phenomenal what that actually means. We're turning on and lighting circuits for clients right now at 800 gigabit per second. 100 gigabit circuits in metro, sub $5,000, depending on things. I mean, I've seen these things as cheap as $3,000 lately. And chances are, it's February 23, 2 years from now, we're going to look back on this video and it's going to be like, oh, look, I'm getting an 800 gig circuit for $500 in metro. And that's what we expect, because what happens? What's the cost of these things? Well, the cost of this stuff is components. How much does the line card cost in a router? How much does the optic cost? All these things, as the new equipment comes out, the newest thing is always the most expensive. Just think of it this way, right? So when 10 gig first came out, it was the most expensive thing that you could get. It was the best thing that you could get. So what happened? Gig got cheaper and 100 meg was cheaper. And 10 meg, if for whatever reason you were buying it, was super cheap because those components were so commoditized and so easy to manufacture that they were very inexpensive. When we look at and we talk about internet for an office, majority of offices have maybe a 100 megabit circuit in them. Well, that circuit, they haven't increased the speed of that circuit over the course of the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So every year, what happens is that circuit gets cheaper. It's cheaper every year. Maybe you upgraded to a 1,000 meg circuit. 3, 4 years ago, we were selling 100 meg internet circuits would probably cost, $1,000, right? And now you can buy a 100 meg DIA circuit for $800. And in 2 years, you're going to buy that 100 meg DIA circuit for $400. But at the same time, different technology becomes available. I mentioned I have a 1,000 meg GPON service at my house. 10 gig GPON is available. I know companies providing 10 gig GPON today in the markets that they operate in. So if you're in market and you're in one of their territories and you can get, GPON X or GPON NG, I think are the actual codes, but somebody's going to correct me that. Please comment and correct me on this. You can get a 10 gig GPON service and it's going to be dirt cheap because it's super efficient and inexpensive for that provider to bring that service to you. This isn't a race to zero. This is just a race to efficiency. And this is just a race to, commodity components being cycled out. And for the companies that need faster speeds, the faster speeds are becoming readily available and are cheaper. So what was 100 meg became 1,000 meg is now, a gig became 10 gig. So it's going to be common. We're going to see offices with 10 gig in their offices. It's going to be phenomenal. They're going to have plenty of bandwidth in their office. They probably won't go to 100 gig in their office for a little while, but then at some point we're going to have office campuses with 100 gig in their offices. And people are going to want to go to the office to work because it's going to be so fast to be on the internet at that point. But, meanwhile, 800 gig is available on backbones. You can buy 800 gig today if you needed it between data centers. 400 gig is pretty common. 100 gig is really it's cheap. Go out and buy 100 gig, liked 100 gig, do 100 gig. It's super inexpensive for you to have 100 gig circuits now. As these circuits increase in speed, each tier will just get cheaper. Next year, what's 100 gig now in 2 years is going to be 400 gig. In 2 years is going to be 800 gig. So it's only a race to zero if user consuming it doesn't increase with it, right? So this perception of race to zero is just misplaced. It's not a race to zero. It is just the efficiencies of tech in play and commoditization and manufacturing capability of global fab plants being able to push out components and chipsets in mass quantities that are inexpensive and available for operators to run and go out and build services around it. So enjoy it. If you only need 100 meg or 1,000 meg at your office, fantastic. Good for you. Every year, you're getting cheaper service, and every year should be in the market buying and signing a new contract and lowering the cost of service to your business. And at some point, 10 gig is going to get so cheap, and you're going to look at it and say, what the heck? Let's just go ahead and upgrade to 10 gig because it's so cheap, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but why not? We might as well try it because it's available. So don't look at this as a race to zero. It's not a race to zero. It's all good for you, the consumer of these goods.